there are two key areas that our generation will be called to account on in the years to come. These two key areas are the state of our families and the state of the environment in which our families live. While Family First assumes the role to discern common sense direction for Australia and to separate the sensible from political ideologies of the other parties, both major and minor, we come to this discussion with one simple condition. Everything we do, after considering all the factors, must be done in the best interest of the future of Australian families. I want to thank Hannah for the invitation to come here tonight. Thank you. And I want to congratulate the Big Switch for bringing such important issues forward for debate, a debate that has to be had. How can Australia know about the importance of all of these factors without the discussion? We need the debate. That is how democracy works. We have to have the discussion in order to find the best way forward. Family First is passionate about Australia reaching for its very best possible future. We are passionate about preserving Australia's environment, about tackling key issues such as climate change. Yet we cannot ignore other pressures that determine the precise course of action that our country must take in tackling these very real and very important issues. Family First supports 100% the efforts Big Switch is making. However, we would have to see the broader issue of how Australian families would be affected in an economic and social sense before committing to any legislative measures. We support the ratification of the Kyoto Protocol. Family First is on record of supporting that. And yes, we support the legislation that guarantees greenhouse gas emissions reductions of at least 30% below 1990 levels by 2020 and 80% by 2050. But not without conditions that would ensure Australian families and small business were left with unfair cost burdens or job losses. Family First has shown itself to be responsible in the Senate to date in looking at every issue that comes up for discussion and debate, looking at every issue on its merits and adopting a sensible, forward-thinking position. Family First has already put it on the public record that it believes a legislated renewable energy target should be adopted. Yes, Family First has put that on the record already. While Family First has nominated a rate of 15% by 2020, this falls short of what the Big Switch is aiming for. And I want to just join with you now and say that in aiming for what the Big Switch is aiming for, we would be excited to think, yes, we can achieve this target without shifting an unfair burden onto consumers. Yes, we'd be behind that if the unfair burden is not shifted onto consumers, end consumers such as, small end consumers such as families and small businesses. We aren't sure that that can be sustainably achieved, but Family First would definitely support such legislation if technological and economic factors allowed that. Yes. Family First is concerned, as are most Australian families, about the introduction of nuclear energy generation to this country. It is alarming, in fact, to think that we are considering introducing nuclear power generation into this country. This issue is up for debate, and the debate has to be had. We need to get the views out there. We need to get the facts out there. They need to be put up and discussed. However, Family First can see past the nuclear debate to more exciting options such as that of geothermal energy generation coming online ahead of nuclear power. The safety risk, that in itself on nuclear power generation, you can't put a price on that. How can we factor that into the economic pricing of such a line of action. I personally don't know how you can cost the risk of a radioactive pollution or the accidents that go along with that. The exciting possibilities that geothermal energy production offers must be fully explored and exploited, especially when individuals such as Dr. Tim Flannery are putting its viability against other clean alternatives being offered, like clean coal. This leads to my point on the future coal industry in this country. The Big Switch has put in their question that they are looking for responsible phasing out of our involvement in the coal industry. The word responsible is key here. Unfortunately, it is also subjective. And it can be understood in radically different ways by different groups, various groups. When we embark on any discussion about the closing down of an industry, many factors come into play, and it becomes immediately evident that it's not only miners and the resource companies that are affected, they're the employers of so many people in this country. There are many other industries and small businesses that draw income and trade from the mining sector. These are some of the other factors that Family First recognises need to be held in tension with the debate that's going on around the forward direction of this country. We can't ignore these issues. They have to be dealt with. It's part of the debate. But let's have the debate. There are some of the other factors that Family First recognise need to be held in balance when we're plotting the course forward on this issue. When we see models regarding alternative energy such as geothermal and others, wind, and all the others that have been mentioned, when we see all of these alternative energies, we definitely recognise the importance of heading in that direction. We're on the bus now. We're on the bus. But while these new forms of energy generation become more viable, we continue to need other energy generation means in order to get to that point. It has to be a transition thing. We continue to need coal to meet our energy needs in the short term until the level of energy production is being efficiently met by the renewable means that we all want to see in this country. Furthermore, clean coal does offer a greener solution. It is a greener solution to carry us through until our advancements in alternative energy generation makes that same coal redundant. That is the goal. That is where we're going. But we have to take these towns in that are on the way down the coast. I believe that clean coal is one of those towns. This is common sense. The key is giving research and development for these alternatives sufficient funding. We need the sufficient funding to make this transition happen. This is common sense. And Family First is all for common sense. When it comes to shutting down our coal export market, however, in the immediate future, Family First does not agree. Queensland has some of the cleanest coal in the world. We also have the technology to burn it in such a way that it leaves a zero carbon emission footprint coming online. We have the technology. We need to continue to make that technology available to burn it cleanly and to make that coal available to a world market that will, in fact, be using less quality coal if we do not supply that coal. If we don't supply the market with that coal, they will be using lower quality coal. Family First believes we should be targeting emissions from transport along with electricity generation. It's not just the electricity but transport as well. With the federal government needs to be investing significantly more into the states, along with the states, into public transport infrastructure. Car emission standards need to be tightened to come in line with world's best practice. We are behind on that. Family First is gunning for bright new horizons. I'm sure, along with every concerned constituent in this room, we are gunning for a bright new horizon, but we need a transition that will not impact negatively on our economic viability. But all this protection of our own position economically doesn't mean a lot if we don't extend an arm of support to underdeveloped countries.
Authorised by James Whelan, The Big Switch, Brisbane.